This webinar started. My name is Ankur Patel. I'm the Director of Advancement for Hindu University of America. And our webinar today is an open house on Hindu contributions to the world with none other than DK Hemahari and Dr. DK Hari, amazing intellectuals bringing Hindu Dharma Indic knowledge systems to us, making it accessible in an exciting and fun way. So it's always a pleasure to have them on. And just to summarize, and we'll get into it, but in the meantime, please put in the Zoom where you are joining from. Sujata ji from Michigan, I'm in Los Angeles, San Jose, Atlanta, Hariji, another Hariji, Mumbai, Orlando, KVS from Orlando, also Virginia, Goa. It's always amazing to see the diversity of folks who join us for these webinars, and we appreciate you joining and participating and being a part of this project, this endeavor, this Hindu University of America for all of us. And so part of what we're really looking at, and it's amazing to me as I learn more, that Hindu contributions have helped to shape the material progress of humanity in so many ways for so long, in the realm of mind, influencing human thought, sciences, spirituality through time, and in contemporary times, following the European colonization of India, it has become received knowledge that Hindus were and continue to be ritualistic, superstitious, poverty-ridden, timid, barely noticeable as a static people whose history is nothing more than the history of successive waves of invaders and colonizers who made India their home for a time. But we know that isn't true. We know there is so much that we have done as a civilization, and that's what this is about. So why did ancient explorers, seemingly the world over, seek out the Hindu civilization, and for what reason? So in this webinar, we'll begin deconstructing, and we've already been deconstructing the myth. So we're down this path, and if you've joined us for other webinars, you know that we are deconstructing the myth set in motion by a 200-year colonial encounter, and we're examining the evidence for sciences, technologies, inventions, industry, prosperity, and wealth that made India such a desirable civilization across time. So we're going to get into that in this webinar, and then we got courses where we're going to introduce and get into even greater depth. So with that said, do we have other people dropping where you are zooming in from? Of course we do. North Carolina, Bhutan, Mumbai again, Chicago, Basji from Florida. Great, wonderful. Glad to have you all with us. And with that, let me give the Haris a quick introduction and hand it off to them. So Dr. D.K. Hari hails from an Indian traditional family, roots in Kanchipuram, known for its age-old temples, saints, and scholars. It's in the water, I guess, right? He had his schooling in the prestigious Rishi Valley School. Then he graduated from Madras Christian College and did his post-graduation in business administration from PSG College of Technology in Coimbatore. He had a 20-year career as a management professional, managing the family businesses in various verticals such as oil and gas, supply chain, heading the marketing for a building industry product company. And he established a brand and sales network in India and abroad. And of course, we have Dr. DK Hemahari, who was born in Mysore and grew up in Bombay. She double graduated in physics and computer technology from Bombay University. Her 20-year career spans in information technology, mainly focusing on managing innovation, nurturing new technologies by providing consulting, mentoring, business development, and support for the same. She's traveled widely to many countries and also within India on professional as well as on personal grounds, which gave her the opportunity to learn about various cultures and widen her horizons. She's learned Carnatic music since childhood. And it's actually, I love this part of it. Dr. D.K. Hari and Dr. D.K. Hemahari both earned their doctorates, their doctorate degrees at Sri Sri University. And together, they started the Bharat Nyan Initiative in civilizational studies back in the year 2000. And since then, Bharat Nyan has followed an interdisciplinary approach to researching from a Hindu perspective and provides an integrated narrative of the Indian civilization. We are a coherent, long-lasting, powerful civilization, and we have made so many contributions, and they've been able to bring out this knowledge in hundreds of books, I think a few hundred short films, and now many classes at Hindu University of America, and continuing to share that knowledge and energy. Thank you for joining us. let me hand it over. I'm sure you got a wonderful presentation. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A chat. And again, always a pleasure to be on with all of you. I'll be supporting in the background. Yes.
Namaste to all. Thank you, Shankar Patel, for a very, as always, very livening way of starting the program and talking so nicely about us. Thank you so much.
Your intro was more energetic.
Very energetic. Thank you so much for the same.
Thank you.
So the topic for today is Hindu contributions to the world in the realm of mind. That's what we look at today. So we'll take that subject for the next 40 minutes or so.
So I'm sure most of us here who are familiar with the Hindu civilization and how it has been described through the times, especially in the last few decades, more so through poetry and film, would recognize this image and would be able to say what it is. So it is a Sone ki chidiya, right? So we've all heard the song, Jahan Dal Dal Par Sone ki Chidiya Karti Hai Basera. So Sone ki Chidiya, this civilization has actually been described. And this is true. You see Amar Sonor Bangla. Everywhere there is this theme of gold and a golden bird or some way or the other connecting it with gold. And that is a thought that could not have just been just a euphoric statement. But if you really go back into our past and read about it from various literature, right, from things that this civilization itself has recorded in the form of Veda and then subsequent literature, as well as accounts by various people around the world who have had contacts, touch points with this civilization, you will see that this is actually a matter of truth. This civilization has been one which has been a glowing golden civilization and to which people have wanted to come and have contacts. And how did this come about is what we at Bharat Gyan started looking for, and which is what we are sharing with you periodically through our courses, our webinars, as well as we've made a lot of films and which we have been disseminating through our YouTube channel, which is Bharat Gyan again. So there are two sides to it, like any coin. There are two sides. One is the matter and the other is the mind. And here, what you see is this particular aspect, the richness has come about in the form of real wealth, physical wealth, assets, proper movable and immovable assets. And this civilizational wealth, one, it was generated fundamentally through
Screen,
trade.
sorry.
Pardon me?
Can't see the screen.
You can't see? Oh, am I not sharing? Oh, I'm so sorry. One second. Just a moment. Just 1 second. Oh, just 1 sec. Yes, that's fine. Just one moment, just rearranging my screen. Yes, there. So if you look at it, this wealth, the physical wealth has been generated through trade, which has been the source of this wealth. And the source for this trade has been industry, a very well-honed practice of industry, different kinds of industry, including agriculture. And all of this has been the source for the trade. Now, if you go to drill down further as to how did they practice industry so well, and how did this become such a prosperity, well-oiled prosperity generating engine, then you will find that it is the society. which has been the source of strength for both the industry and the trade. So from various aspects, right, from the society to the industry to the trade, they have our ancestors have generated wealth and kept the civilization prosperous for millennia, that people sought the civilization for both what it was producing and trading, and also for the kind of wealth that had accumulated in the hands of the civilization. On the other hand, so which is what we bring about. So when you talk about Hindu contributions, one side is being this realm of the matter, which generated material wealth. And we have been teaching about this in the form of two courses, which are one which is called the Big Five, to go deep into what really constituted. Many of you would have come across the statement that this civilization handled about 30% of world's GDP. So this, what constituted the components of this and what were the game changers? So these are the courses that we've been doing. Then we have the realm of mind, where we are now in the next quarter, coming quarter, going to look at sciences and arts, and later living and lifestyle. So coming back to that, when you look at the other side, the side of the mind, so we saw the matter, and you look at the side of the mind, then we want to pose a small teaser to you. So what was the impression about this civilization in the minds of the rest of the civilization, especially the Chinese, which have been one of the equally, because they were as well generating sufficient amount of trade and GDP as well. So how did that civilization consider the Indic civilization, the Hindu civilization? Anybody, would you like to guess and put it up on your chat box? Could we see your advanced? Yes. So anybody else, any further guesses? Students were being sent, true. So let's have a look at what they thought about this civilization. More advanced. Yes, more and more advanced. But let's look at this beautiful view.
See, the Chinese define the world from 5 geographical areas. One is China, which they call themselves as the king of humans. The Chinese king was called king of humans, because the people were obedient to authority and followed the government policy. That's been the policy of, that's been the style of the civilization from day one. Then they looked at Turks to the west of them. They call them king of lions because they were courageous and ferocious. Then they looked Persia, which is the southwest. They looked at them as fertile lands, wealth, glory, and all that. And far west, Rome, the robust physique, handsome people, all that. What about Indians? They didn't call any of that. They said that the king of India is a king of wisdom. Because that was where the first nation to cultivate sciences, the branch of knowledge, and all that perspective for it. So look at how, from the perspective of the Chinese civilization, a parallel civilization of Indian civilization on the other side of the Himalayas looked at the world itself, and in this in particular, how they looked at the Indian civilization as a civilization of wisdom, of knowledge, especially in this upcoming program that we're going to do on Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of mind. This is an important aspect of saying mind is about wisdom, and how millennia ago these civilizations look at each other. I'm sure you will find similar course in Turkey or Persia also, but we thought this is something to highlight where you can focus and very clearly say about this contribution.
Now let's look at a few others. You want to go back?
See, when we see this particular quote, when we've seen this about how the Chinese looked at the Indian civilization, we should also see how Europe looked at the Indian civilization vis-a-vis also the Chinese. For example, in medieval Europe, the impression was that science was deeply embedded in Europe, in the minds of the people. And Arabia is partially sometimes mentioned more for alchemy. There's very little reference to India or China as being a scientific civilization, especially in the later medieval period. But now, in the modern era, it's becoming clearer and clearer that this civilization has had a very scientific approach right from Vedic times. And there have been usual sort of fluctuations that any land can have, any history can have, any geography can have of the fluctuations. But among these fluctuations too, this land of India has had the capacity of being one of the earliest. We have seen one quote, one particular quotation from China, then we've seen the view of Europe. Now we'll see some of the Europe from some of the, we'll see one more quote from the Indian scholar, the great Indian scientist, where he speaks about, his name is Varaha Mihira, who wrote his encyclopedic compendium called Brihat Samhita. Samhita means compendium, Brihat means big, the big one. So the compendium by itself is pen. He called it the compendium, Brihat Samhita, in which he explains this idea of knowledge. It's a scientific, the word Shastra he calls science, and he calls a branch of knowledge. And he says that how it is affecting.
So it is a body of knowledge that has grown, is growing, and will grow. And it is something that progressively affects man's life. So look at the sagacity and the wisdom in this particular person, where he's saying that this body itself, body of knowledge itself, is not static. And it has come thus far. It is going to keep growing. And as it grows, it also progressively affects man's life.
So look at this point. And this is a statement about science, about Shastra, Vijnana, written over 1,500 years back. And we can see that all the scientists among this group here can see that how this is valid even today about science, any aspect of science. So that is the deep impact that we have had on this particular subject. Now going on to, and he defines it in this, I said, you know, the word Vijnana for science. Look at the word Jnana is knowledge. Vijnana, V stands for special. V also stands for incisive, because that is important, because the knowledge of science should be incisive. It's very important for it to be incisive. And that's why he calls it Vijnana science, and he gives a full quote explaining it. And it should be a deep dive. Science is obviously deep dive. It can bisect, trisect, as well as assimilate. That is what this one word V means in all this. And that's why science is called Vijnana, because Jnana is knowledge. The word Jnana is knowledge. When you add the prefix of V to it, this is all that you get to this. That is why it's called a science. It's called science by itself. It's called a science because this knowledge gets all these qualities. That is where the aspect of the mind comes in. Isn't it? That's where the aspect of mind really steps in, because this is the contribution. This is the Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of mind, wherein we bring in the special thing, we bring that incisive aspect. It's a deep dive. You bisect it, trisect it, quadrisect it, any number of times. Not only do you all this bisect, trisect, all that, you also have to assimilate it back together. So this is a contribution that which we'll be seeing through the different sessions that we do along. So having said this again, let's see some of the one. We have seen the Chinese side, we have seen the European side, then we've seen one of the native scholars over a couple of millennia speak about how science is and how it affects the life, how it affects the mind. Let's look at 2-3 other quotes. One is, let's look at a quote from Andalusi, who is from Spain. Because I'm sure all of you are aware of the area called Andalusia in Spain. So he is an Arabic scholar, but who lived in Spain. Let's see what he's got to say about the Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of mind. He made this statement about a millennia back.
So Said al-Andalusi, in his work Tabqat al-Umam, he says the first nation to have cultivated science is India, which is a powerful nation having a large population and a rich kingdom. This is, of course, the English translation of what he had written.
In Arabic, in Spain.
India is known for the wisdom of its people. Over many centuries, all the kings of the past have recognized the ability of the Indians in all the branches of knowledge. People refer to the king of India as the king of wisdom.
Pause. Look at the scene here. A person sitting in Spain, he's quoting a Chinese quote. And this is 1,000 years ago. So it cross-validates a quotation across civilizations, across geographies, across millennia. Look at that.
As the king of wisdom, because of the Indians' careful treatment of ulum, science, and their advancement in all the branches of knowledge. The Indians, known to all nations for many centuries, are the mental essence of wisdom, the source of fairness and objectivity. They are of sublime pensiveness, universal apologue, and useful and rare inventions. Look
at the beauty of what he said, and all this holds good, which is what we'll be seeing step by step in the course that we do. Incidentally, there's a note here from one of the person attending this about saying Aryabhatta gave the world the digit 0. While here I'd like to make an observation. Yes, Aryabhatta did use 0. For the Westerners, he was probably one of the early people that they saw using a 0. But the idea of 0 and the symbol of 0 pre-existed in India centuries before it and even millennia before it, about which we have written a full chapter in our book, Breaking the Myths, about how Aryabhatta, which is commonly referred to as person who gave us 0, no, he also used 0, used it extensively. There are many scholars who used it before that, and at least close to 700 to 800 years before that, in the Bakshali document in Punjab, you have the 0 mentioned. Similarly, you have it in the Chaturbhuj temple in Rajasthan, you have it in multiple places. We have given all quotes and available data along with.
And these are the kind of things we'll be seeing in the course. So the aspect of how did the civilization come up with the idea of 0? How did they understand 0? From where did they understand 0? And how did this 0 actually, it's a beautiful story of how did the 0 travel across from the Hindu civilization all over the world, both in terms of knowledge as well as in terms of the word, the name, the figure.
The shape of 0. Why is 0 a dot? Why can't it be an X? Why can't it be U? Why can't it be a V? Why should 0 be a dot or a circle? Even for that, there's a scientific meaning. It can be 1 or it can be...
It can be shape. It can choose that particular shape. So what does this civilization relate 0 with?
That itself, that very shape that we gave to 0, since then the world has given to the shape 0, it's itself an ingenuity of the Hindu mind, that they could visualize something, the beyond, the para, from which they got the shape. That is one of the sessions that we'll be doing.
And then how did this idea travel? We'll actually trace it with the name itself. I mean, for this number, the digit, how did West end up calling it 0?
From Shunya.
Shunya, it becomes 0. We will be tracing that whole path itself.
From India to Afghanistan, from Afghanistan to Persia to Arabia to Turkey to Greece, from there to Germany, France, England. That we'll be doing that step by step. So look at this. Here, one more quote by the same person, Said al-Andalusi, where he speaks about it. For all this we'll be discussing in the class. It's there in our book, Brand Bharat. This is again for all of you to see.
So he says, among the nations, during the course of centuries and throughout the passage of time, India was known as the mine of wisdom and the fountainhead of justice and good government.
Look at this mine of wisdom.
And the Indians were credited with excellent intellects, exalted ideas, universal maxims, rare inventions, and wonderful talents. See, each of these actually is speaking about different dimensions. See, when you talk about universal maxims, you are actually mixing, bringing together knowledge and your moral and your behavior as well.
Into practical application.
Day-to-day living. So when you say the word maxim, automatically it's not just plain knowledge. It is knowledge for living. Such a beautiful thing. And he's segregating intellect, he's segregating ideas, he's segregating inventions. So saying that at all levels we have excelled.
And all this in the realm of mind is what he will be doing on this.
And he speaks about the fountainhead of justice and good government. Because without this good governance
and justice,
we could not have achieved what we did with this knowledge.
You need peace, you need shanti, you need good administration, because you cannot work in chaotic condition, isn't it? When you say shanti, 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 it means you have to have the good governance for it, isn't it? That's important. Others, you have shanti at different levels. Like each of it will be dealing with in these upcoming sessions. Okay, go ahead, please.
So they have studied arithmetic and geometry. They have also acquired copious and abundant knowledge of the movement of the stars, the secrets of the celestial sphere, and all other kinds of mathematical sciences. Moreover, of all the peoples, they are the most learned in the science of medicine and thoroughly informed about the properties of drugs, the nature of composite elements, and peculiarities of the existing things.
So here a couple of people have mentioned about drugs, so that's what also.
We're just reading some of your comments as they come in so that we can take them
right
then and there. So they are talking, he is actually talking about the different disciplines in which we have really excelled, and we will be going into each of these aspects to see what was that knowledge that we had excelled in and that we had shared with the rest of the world.
Yeah. Just seeing your comments, we'll move on. So look at this. He's talking about, he continues this about 1,000 years ago. He says, look at the sublime thoughts were created here many centuries ago in the source of wisdom. So that is what this land has given to the world. The Hindu mind has given to the world. Now going on to other people, like there is people like Al-Jahiz and Yaqubi. So different people have mentioned different, which you will not be dealing with. Look at this. The Indians are men of science and thought. They surpass all of the people in every science. Their judgment on astronomical problems is the best. This is in about 1,200 years ago.
This is in 897 CE.
In the science of medicine, their ideas are highly advanced, and a large number of their books, which are too many to be mentioned. So that is the amount of contribution that we have made in this particular realm of the mind, Hindu contribution of the mind. That much is what we made. That's the beauty of this Indian civilization. We have seen different people like that. Now we'll go on to some other aspects, because based on the queries coming up on the chat box, we will sort of fine tune our presentation to the needs of the audience. Now we'll take
we will also see what Albert Einstein, a more recent,
I'm sure many of you would have read this at different times, where he speaks about, for his scientific investigations, he's used the inspiration and guidance of Sanskrit and the Bhagavad Gita for the formation of his theories. Look at this. So this is a thought process of the Hindu contributions continuing across millennia. Of course, it didn't stop with the times of Yaqubi. It didn't stop the times of Andalus. It's come all the way up to the times of Albert Einstein and beyond, which is what we'll be seeing.
Yeah. So if you really look at it, this has been a total India-centric search. Just one. So people all over the world looking at just by their codes for everything they wanted to look to India, both for material as well as for all these sublime thoughts. Look at the praises they are heaping. They're calling us the kings of wisdom, mine of wisdom. No wonder that the world was India-centric. They were looking to this civilization. They badly wanted to come to the civilization. And therefore, in their journeys, as they were exploring and searching.
World, the new world, the geographies of the world, both east and the west, wherever they went, they called it in India. So if they went west, it became West Indies. If they met some other people in the mainland America, they call them Red Indians. If they go east, they call it East Indies. If you go beyond, they call it Indonesia. So anywhere they went was in India. So what is it in their mindset when they search not just for wealth, but also in their search for knowledge? What is it? I hope the audio is clear now, because is there any problem, Ankur? Because a couple of chat points says audio isn't too clear.
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
Pardon, Ankur?
Yeah, I can
It's
hear
fine?
you. I think.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much. Thanks for the feedback. So the whole idea was the world was India-centric in its approach. That's a key point that we're getting down to say in this particular course. Even in the realm of mind, not just matter, which already done in the earlier quarters. So the West was constantly looking for
not just the spices and the physical treasure, but wisdom was another inexhaustible treasure trove that they really were wanting to lay their hands on. In fact, you will see wonderful stories that when Alexander came, before he came, he was actually advised by his tutor to bring back scholars from India. He said his tutor tells him that if ever you get to go up to India, please bring back some learned scholars, because I want to have some exchanges, interactions with him.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram Sachan, for your very positive and appreciative comment. Thank you.
So having seen so much of this maths, let us just get into some sampling, whatever we can in this next few minutes. We will get into this in detail later, but in this few minutes, just to show you some samples.
See, because look at this. Einstein says, two people say about zero, because zero was mentioned sometime. Einstein was, the zero was mentioned a couple of minutes back by some of our colleagues in this program. Look at, he says, we owe to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been possible. Because the idea of counting, think of the world burdened with the Roman way of counting. 1x, v, I before a v, I after v, I before next, I after next, and x. How do you add up? How do you multiply? Pause for a moment and think. Would any science be possible with having letters like I,
M,
V,
C.
X, C, and M? That's all.
And if you have to write 2000, you have to put 2 M's.
So look at the and you can't multiply it. You can't use it in a computer language. Look at that. So what he says is here, we change the Indian mind, change the way of not just maths. From there on, it changed science. That was a contribution which we don't even think of. We don't even recognize the contribution that we have made to the world. This is what an Australian by name A.L. Basham, in his book, The Wonder That Was India, he writes very clearly,
the debt of Western world to India in the field of mathematics cannot be overestimated. Most of the great discoveries and inventions of which Europe is so proud would have been impossible without a developed system of mathematics in India. And this in turn would have been impossible if Europe had been shackled by the unwieldy system of Roman numerals. The unknown man who discovered the new system was, from the world's point of view, after Buddha, the most important son of India.
Look at the importance that a person like A.L. Basham, an anthropologist from Australia, is talking about this as to importance. So this is a huge, huge contribution of the Hindu mind to the world, to the development of the world as a whole, not just in philosophy, but for which no science would have been possible, but for which real contribution to mathematics would not have been possible. Like that, that's what we know. So we'll see as we go along the course, the story of zero.
We'll be seeing the story of zero in great detail. Likewise, we'll also see the story of infinity. You can't see one end of the spectrum and leave the other. And it is very interesting to note that we have been able to contribute both ends to both ends of the spectrum, both to the minusculest minuscule, that absolute nothing, to everything, which is infinity.
Incidentally, the name infinity and the shape infinity is also a contribution of the Hindu mind. The very English word infinity comes from Indian source word. We have made a short film on this. It is there in our YouTube channel. You can please watch it. Because of paucity of time of the session, I don't have to show it, but certainly you can watch it. It's there, and also we'll be dealing with it in the course as a half session. Look at this. One of the earliest English texts written about how it was Indian way of counting that gave to the West or opened a window of maths and science. This is written in Old English, that is about 800-year-old English. I don't know how many of you can read this English that's written there 800 years ago, but Hema will read it for you. This is the book, the paper is called The Craft of Numbering. Numbering meaning numbering.
Yes, yes, thank you, Vistitra. The craft of numbering in 1350. Look at the way they write. Furthermore, you must understand, that in this craft being used 10, they call it 10 figuries. So that's how they've gone about, and this is how it's written. Example, and he says, why 10 figuries of Inde? So the answer is, for as I have said afore, they were found first in India. So for as I've said before, they were first found in India. That is why they are called the 10 figures of India. So in 1350, they were still the 10 figures of India. They were not Arabic numerals. They were still 10 figures of India for many of the English.
And this is the oldest available English arithmetic text. The name of the text is there. The year is there. So look at this. This is the text there. Look at this, how it is. So very clearly from 1 to 100, how they came up with this chart. Because this itself was a revelation to them as to how they could write like this and make this whole thing up.
See, in 1390, you slowly find things changing. The Arabs first learned about science from the Indians along with their figure and methods of calculation. And this is being said by this person, who is a father of economics and father of social science, Abd-ar-Rahman ibn Khaldun. And so for the Arab world, and he himself is acknowledging that they learnt it from Indians.
Just take one or two books. Look at this. Laplace, I said this about 200 years ago.
So the ingenious method of expressing every possible number using a set of 10 symbols, each symbol having a place value and an absolute value, emerged in India. So Laplace, we all read about Laplace and all his works when we do in science and physics and maths and so on. But he himself, we don't read about his acknowledgement that all of this has come from India, the numbers, the 10 symbols. The idea seems so simple nowadays that its significance and profound importance is no longer appreciated.
When he's saying this, it's no longer appreciated. He's saying it 200 years ago. And even after 200, we still don't appreciate it. It's not changed. And who is bemoaning that the lack of appreciation? A person of the eminence of Laplace.
Its simplicity lies in the way it facilitated calculation and placed arithmetic foremost amongst useful inventions. He calls it simple. Look at, he uses the word simplicity, and he calls it foremost of inventions. The importance of this invention is more readily appreciated when one considers that it was beyond the two greatest men of antiquity, Archimedes and Apollonius. So he's saying that even during the time of Archimedes and Apollonius, they hadn't thought of it. And therefore, the importance for them, these two were the greatest in antiquity and in science. And importance of this cannot be overstated. If even these people didn't know, then that is the level of the significance of this invention. That's what he's trying to say. So look at the importance that
Hindu mind has contributed to the world. Like that, we have given concepts. We spoke only about the idea of numbers. Now let's just next 1 minute we'll speak about idea of concept. Look at all the concepts that you can think of in basic calculus today, right? From zero to
infinity, pi,
360
to decimal point, 360 degrees, triangle, and
10 to the power of
exponential, fractions, ratios, all of these that we normally use in mathematics today, arithmetic.
many more like this.
So they went from India to Arabia, and then from there to Persia, and then Greece, Italy, and then Rome, and then from there on it went to rest of the world.
Have you ever paused for a moment and thought, why is 360 degrees of a circle? Why can't it be 100 degrees? Why can't it be 200 degrees? Why can't it be 250 degrees?
They have more zeros in it, more circles in it.
Why can't it be 500 degrees? Why can't it be 1000 degrees? Why should a circle have only 360 degrees?
Who said so? Who said it should have 360 degrees?
That is there in the Hindu thought. That's what we look at in one of the sessions. The source of it, each one of it, like that, each subjects we'll be looking at.
And what is algebra in the Hindu mind, and how did it go? And how this algebra used to be called Bija Ganita. Bija, seeds, and Ganita, maths, arithmetic, Bija Ganita. Then about sign that you normally use in trigonometry, which is called Jya. Then geometry itself, which is called Gyamiti. And trigonometry, which is Trikonamiti. Three is three again. Kona, triangle. Angles. Three-angled. And algorithm itself, the concept of algorithm, reducing certain mathematical principles and way of working into an algorithm, and the idea and the name for this the name algorithm, how did it come about?
It again came only from India. We look at all these aspects in mathematics. So going on from this subject, because next few minutes we look at one more subject. We've shown you about 5-10 minutes of maths. We'll show you next subject quickly before you go on to this. Then we've seen that. Let's look at astronomy for the world.
Because if it's maths, then it automatically progresses into astronomy.
Seeing the skies.
Fundamentally astronomy, which actually helped create and help this branch of mathematics itself evolve, especially trigonometry and all of that, the geometry and everything that we saw.
Now, when you say astronomy, people normally call astronomy Jyotisha. The moment you call something Jyotisha, what do people in the West say? Jyotisha is astrology. Astrology is something all about prediction and mumbo-jumbo. I don't believe in astrology. So immediately the whole field of astronomy is dumped. In this, what we should remember is the Jyotisha is actually original term. The word Jyoti means light. So that anything that glows and gives light is Jyoti. Actually, that's a subject for astronomy. Since astrology also is a subset of this, of the Phalita Jyotisha, what we call the fruit, that also took on the name Jyotisha. Today, what's happened across centuries, now we look at Jyotisha as to only mean astrology and not its parent subject of astronomy, which is observational astronomy, Drik Jyotisha and Ganita Jyotisha, mathematical astronomy, which you'll see in the next couple of minutes.
We'll just play a very short film and just to explain this a little more. Just 1 second.
So, Vishnu, it's a clear difference between astrology and astronomy in Indian thought traditionally.
The skies have always fascinated man. We have been observing this limitless celestial expanse for generations with wonder. One of the long-standing traditional practices in this land of India has been astronomy. It is called Jyotisha. The word Jyotisha comes from the word Jyoti, meaning to illumine. As the name suggests, this body of knowledge is about the astral bodies that emit light. This word Jyotisha, while is used to denote astronomy, is also used in a popular parlance to describe astrology. Astrology is a predictive field, whereas astronomy is more exact. Astrology is known as Phalita Jyotisha, whereas astronomy is called Ganita Jyotisha. a mathematical observational science. It is also called as Siddhanta Jyotisha, an exact science. This differentiation is in their names. What is the differentiation we see in the sky?
Falita Jyotisha or astrology is the study of sun, moon and the 5 planets and their rotation in the sky along a narrow path which is called the zodiac belt. It deals with the effect that this motion has on the earth and the earthlings. Whereas Siddhanta Jyotisha or Ganita Jyotisha is an observational science. It's a mathematical science that deals with the study of all the objects in the sky, the stars, the planets, the galaxies. It deals with their characteristics like the size, their speed of movement, the luminosity and so on. So it is a more observational and a mathematical study. Therefore, if you look at it, Siddhanta Jyotisha is a much more holistic study of the skies and Falita Jyotisha or astrology is just one part of this.
So we see here very clearly as to how astronomy has been a field of the Hindu mind's contribution to the world. Let's look at some other aspect. If you look at the field of education, what we see education in West, in England, as well as in USA, the Hindu mind has had a big role to play is what we'll see in one of the sessions, because you look at what they call as a new system of schooling in England, which was later introduced in USA also as called the Lancaster system. If you look at the American system, it's called as the Lancaster system. Both of them took it from East India Company from India and practiced it. That's how it came, because they claimed originality to idea, but when they found it was borrowed from India, without acknowledgement, they agreed yes. So what we call as a Lancastrian system in USA has its roots in the Hindu mind, which is what we'll see in the course.
Hindu mind and the Hindu way of passing on knowledge of from generation to generation, how this knowledge was taught and passed on. And various simple techniques which we have never associated, which we have never even bothered to think about, like writing on sand or slate, then using these kind of letters and alphabet
The
songs.
sequencing the alphabets, all that is, the way all we have to play all this, the class monitor system, the group study system, which we all take for granted today, it all came from the Hindu thought. We'll see that as we go along in the course. These are some other aspects we'll take. Then going on to the next subject that we'll be dealing in. If you look at this, the idea of Rishi, when we say in India, we all think of them, they're very bearded people, only doing Homa, only doing puja and all that. No, that is a very limited perspective of looking at it. They are actually scientists of those days. Many of the Rishis were ancient scientists of those days. Look at this, each one of them, right from Bharadwaja, who gave us medicine, to other subject aeronautics as was mentioned, Salihotra, who gave veterinary science, especially equine, then Kannada of atomic science, Dhanvantri for anatomy, Patanjali for yoga, Mayaswara for architecture, Vishwakarma again, Madhvacharya for mathematics, Sushruta surgery, Charaka physician. Each field, each of the great ancient Rishi were seer scientists, Rishi scientists. We look at some of these as we go along in the course. And coming to the medieval period, we have again a series of them. Aryabhatta, Madhvacharya, Varahamihira, Nagarjuna, Bhagavata. The list is endless actually. Just in one slide, we can just show you 6-7 names we're showing you. But there's so many equally prominent, equally important names. But what is more important is our contribution did not stop with the ancient past alone. It's continued in the world, in the modern era, even when we were chained, even when we were subjugated, we had these people sprout. It was like a flower sprouting in a desert. We had continuously people like these noble people, and again a lot more of them across the world, across time. So the Hindu mind has continued to prosper and contribute to the world in their own different ways.
And there are many, many more other such subjects. And what we have designed for you for this course is actually things from Ayurveda, especially when we are talking about sciences and arts, it's about Ayurveda, about vaccination, which is very relevant in present times. The story of how the idea of vaccination started from this civilization.
Inoculation.
As inoculation, then horse breeding. Then we go deeper into mathematics and look at various aspects of maths. Then we look at certain other aspects that we use overall and which have influenced the world a lot. We'll be looking at alphabets and music as well, the kind of contributions we made in this space, and also in chemistry and art of storytelling, and not to miss certain other interesting aspects too. Now, what fundamentally is different, what fundamentally is going to be different from this study of, let us say, the Hindu contributions, is that because there is a lot already written about the contributions in terms of maths and various fields. Of course, sometimes it may be in different places. You may not find it all in one. But the bigger aspect is we are going to be looking at it closely intertwined with the aspects of spirituality as well. So we will see these contributions of sciences and the Hindu mind and link it along with that to the idea of spirituality, the idea of consciousness, the idea of cosmology. So the larger perspective in which this knowledge actually finds its place. Why did the Hindus think of it? In what context did they think of it? This is what we are going to see. And in line, because this is actually in line with what our ancients have advised in our approach to both science and spirituality. They've advised that you shouldn't be looking at them individually in a separated manner. You should instead look at both perspectives. And this comes from a beautiful Ishawasi Upanishad quote itself. And that is what we would like to play for you now as a short film and with the mantra. And with that, we will stop our presentation and we'll be open to any kind of questions that you would like to pose. So let me just play that bit for you.
The video is not showing. The video is not showing.
You're not sharing. Sorry, you're not sharing. 1 second.
One moment, sorry. Thanks for pointing.
Thanks. You share it now. I'm sorry.
In the meantime, in the chat.
Yes. Okay, so
We'll share now. I think we're sharing now.
You may ask if the ancient Rishi had realized, relished, and shared with us the knowledge of the process of creation in the form of the concept of divinities in the Veda, the Purana, in the scriptures and sculptures, then where is the need to do further scientific research and conduct expensive experiments to unravel the mysteries of the universe?
The answer to this question lies in the Ishawasi Upanishad, one of the primary, equally ancient explanatory texts of the Veda. The Ishawasi Upanishad had obviously thought of this question and had preemptively answered it many thousand years ago itself.
Andhantamah pravishanti ye vidyamupasate tato bhoja jivate tamo yavo vidyaya aggaratah vidyancha yastadvedo bhajagge saha avidyaya mrityuntirtva vidyaya mritamashnude andhantamah pravishanti ye sambhutimupasate tato bhoja jivate tamo javo sambhutyaggratah
सम्भूतिं च विनाशं च यस्तद्वेदो भयज्ञे सः विनाशेन मृत्युं तीर्त्वा सम्भूत्यामृतमश्नुते.
We are advised by the text that the pursuit of the unmanifested reality, the spiritual sciences alone, or the pursuit of the manifested or the material sciences alone will lead us to further darkness and misunderstanding. This universe and the creation is a mix of both the manifested and the unmanifested, and a healthy mix of understanding of both will give rise to a simple answer that Dr. Penrose is looking for.
We had a path-breaking moment in science with Einstein's revelation of the relation between mass and energy. How mass and energy are interconvertible, and how the total mass and energy in the universe is a constant. With a combined understanding of creation from the material sciences perspective and the ancient spiritual expression of science, we can perhaps hope to reach the next path-breaking moment in mankind's pursuit of science, namely the unraveling of the relation between the manifested and the unmanifested, the relation between matter and consciousness, how the total of all matter and consciousness leads to the all-pervading Prakriti or nature, the scientific divinity.
So that's the beauty of it. Where nature is a scientific divinity, that's what it is all about, and how it's a healthy mix from different aspects of mind, not only mind, matter and mind. So there's a Hindu contribution to the world, is in matter, is in mind. So in this course, sequence of courses, we will look at each one of these aspects and relishing this knowledge, which is Bharata, the land which relishes knowledge, the land of wisdom, as many civilizations in the world have called us to be. The Chinese, the Spanish, the Arabic, all have called us to be land of wisdom. So because wisdom obviously comes from mind. So that is what we'll be looking at in this course. So it'll be wonderful to connect with all of you and see as to how we can take each aspect of this forward. So please do drop in your questions if you have. We'll be glad to take them. And the course details are available in the with Sri Ankur Ji. And those who also want to see the details of our course, you can see it both in the Hindu University America website, as well as in the Bharat Gyan website, which is BHARATHGYAN, bharatgyan.com. So both available. We'll be glad to see you, meet you all in the course, interact with you, and all of us journey together to release this knowledge of our civilization as a whole, in this course specifically on Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of mind, especially the field of sciences and arts, which is what this 10-session course is all about, which happens for the US audience on every Saturday, India time, IST, 8:30 p.m. every Saturday. Once again, thank you all for joining us for the session and seeing these aspects with us, journeying the aspects with us. We'd like to now give it back. So this is where the whole banner is for the course. You can all welcome to join.
So these are the US timings, Saturdays, and Australia batch on Sundays. And it gives the corresponding India timings and Europe timings. And all of this is there on the HUA website, which contains the description of the course.
Also in the Bharat Gyan website, it's there. So both places there, it's linked to one or the other. You can get to this. So we'd like to thank you all for joining in. We had a very healthy audience today of about 80 plus people. Thank you so much for taking your time to join and listen to this. And any queries you will take. And of course, our excellent moderator, Sri Ankur Ji, is there. And his enthusiasm is actually very infectious. He is a very, as you say in India, he's a very enthu person. He's always infectious. Any questions, we'll be glad to take in the chat box, or if he's been moderator, also fine. I leave it to the view the moderator wants to take.
The audio is not working. Hello. Audio's not-
Yes, we can hear you, Ankur.
What's going on?
Oh, your audio. Okay.
How about that? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
hear you now.
we can hear you. But I think now you've gone.
Oh,
You
'cause knowledge
faded.
is infectious, right? That's what it's all about.
Yes, yes,
Sharing and
yes.
going.
There you're
I
back.
have a few questions. Let me just launch a poll real quick. Let's get the feeling of who's interested in this course, science and technology. And I also wanted to know how many people have taken a course with the Haris before. It's you know, people are coming back because of the sequence you've created that explores so much and has this whole pathway laid out. If you want to also ask maybe by voice, you can raise your hand in the participant window. But let's go after some of these questions. Sarthak Ji is asking, what are the technological contributions by respected Hindus? So many. Maybe there's one that you would like to highlight that's kind of indicative or something that you want to just bring up again.
Sure. Thank you for this question. Thank you for asking this question, Ankur. See, technological is what we dealt with. When we did Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of matter, especially in Big Five. For example, if you look at it, the idea of iron and steel smelting, wood steel was a technological contribution to India. Then make of cotton. Because before the Hindu mind gave cotton, the Hindu thought process gave cotton to the world. There's no cotton. Because, for example, if you look at the Greek historian Herodotus in 500 BC, when he wrote this book called Historia, from which you get the very English term history as a subject, he writes that, you know what? It's strange that Indians grow sheep wool on plants. It's so interesting that he's called sheep. We grow sheep wool on plants. That means what? We're growing cotton on plants.
So, and that it also means that they didn't know about cotton.
Similarly,
So
zinc.
they were using just animal wool. And therefore, when he sees this fluff cotton growing, he says there is wool growing on a plant, animal wool, which is growing on a plant.
That's a technical contribution of India. Similarly, steel, iron and steel. Zinc came to Europe only in 1750. Before that, they did not know about zinc because only the Indian subcontinent was sole makers of zinc till 1550, when the Chinese came here and learned and took it to China. And from China, it went to England. Otherwise, it was not known at all. So, these are the many contributions that we have dealt with when we did Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of matter. We also one we agreed 3 or 4 already in the contribution. You asked for one, Ankur, we agreed a few more. There are a lot more like this. It's there. All of this there as short films in our Bharatgan YouTube channel for all to watch. There are umpteen number of short films for you to watch on the subject.
And that's one of the beautiful parts about the course and the work that you do. You ask one question, you get 10 answers. And so the course, I know you go longer and it's really interactive. We have some more questions. We'll go through them and maybe in the same way. Anshuman, and this was actually interesting to me also, was asking about the king's classification, right? The 5 kings and how that was distributed. Just and part of maybe the broader question of where do you get the information, the sourcing, making sure that we have references, because that's one of those things that are often leveraged against us. Oh, where are you citing it? Well, after, you know, the destruction of the knowledge systems by active, you know, adharmic forces, we have to reconstruct and present our facts in a legitimate way. And so I know you've done that work, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. See, actually, this king's reference, I mean, the king's classification, we could see this from the Chinese period of about 600 CE, but more important, you could see a corroboration from the the Spanish side of the world, Arabic side. And there you could see them cross-referring back to the Chinese view of Indians as kings of wisdom. So you find a lot of such corroborating references
across lands. That's the beauty of it, because that is why we are called as Gyan. Gyan itself, what you have in India, Vigyan, the word Gyan, which is again, you think it's only India. No, that word Gyan, Nyan, actually it's not, the G is silent, it's Nyan. The word Nyan goes to west and becomes Gnostics. from which comes gospel. When you add the G, it becomes gospel. From which, when you add the word, the Nyan becomes knowledge. To know, knowing. Look at the word. So the very idea of knowledge, it's itself is in this etymology, philology, semantics, everything you look at it is so Indian. If there's no word for gospel and Gnostics, but for the word Gyan. Nyan. This is source word. The source idea is here. So without a seed, where are you going to have the plant?
Very nice.
Bija Akshara is here.
The roots are here.
So just about half people have filled out the poll. If you can find it, just minimize, maximize, let us know if you've taken the course or not. Maybe I'll share that in a little bit. Raja Lakshmi ji and Shankar is saying, why aren't our kids taught this already? Well, this is the project that we're undertaking. Thank you, Hemaji and Hariji, for doing this work and making it accessible and sharing it. And Hindu University of America is the platform where we can get the next generation plugged in and aware and transmit this important information and knowledge.
So here, can I intervene? This Professor Hiremat saying Pingal had already knew about Fibonacci series. Yes, Fibonacci himself writes. He gets it from the Indians because his father is a trader he's a tax collector in Pisa. So he writes that he gets this knowledge from the Indian traders and which writes it in his language. He doesn't claim originality at all. What we today attributed to Fibonacci is much before that known to Pingala and many other people. Hemachandra. Before Hemachandra is a Jain scholar of 1,000 years back. 200 years before Hemachandra has been another scholar. All that we discussed in the course. So what you so loosely and commonly call as Fibonacci series, Fibonacci himself says he got it from India. But we take it and limit, that is Western maths has taken, limited it up to him only, but not seen where he got it from, which he acknowledges himself. We'll see all the quotes in the course.
Another example that I like is Pythagoras, right? He, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. He traveled to India and came back a vegetarian. You know, there's like little things that, like, come on, there was more going on than just Europe ceding knowledge to Bharat. There was way more complex, and we get into that. So there's so many little examples and stories like that. I don't know about Sujata G's question about invasion with a purpose, right? Are the invaders bringing technology, refining technology? How does that influence the society? And maybe there's a point there that you would like to make.
Answer this point. See, invasions of the West is different from the invasions happen in India. We did discuss this in our earlier course about war. See, the idea is in the Hindu thought, it's always Krinvanto Vishwam Aryam, meaning let's go and make the world a noble place. Aryam, nobility, Krinvanto, let's do Kar, Vishwam, world. So that's the whole idea. Whereas the West idea is invasion means to loot and plunder. Incidentally, along with the loot and plunder and the rape and the devastation, if one or two of them can catch some knowledge here and there and take it, well and good. Otherwise, they're happy with the loot and plunder. So the mindset is different between the Oriental thought process in India and the Occidental thought process of loot and plunder. That's why even when, look at this, Aristotle, the teacher of Alexander of Macedonia, he tells him, when you go on your war campaign, if you happen to see any Indian saint or scholar, if you get to talk to him, if you can bring him back safely with respect, then I would like to interact with him. That is the one request Aristotle puts to his student, Alexander of Macedonia. And he actually comes and he interacts with a scholar by name Kalyan, whom he calls as, in Kalyan is obviously a scholarly name. I'm sure Ankur is all smiles. Okay. And it's also the name of the president of Hindu University America, a scholarly person. And this name Kalyan, when it goes to Greek language, it becomes Kalanos. K-L-A-N-O-S, Kalanos. So you read about Kalanos, you think it's actually the original name is Kalyan. It becomes Kalanos. Like that. That's how it travels.
Beautiful. We have Vikram Sachin. He's taken, I think, many of your courses. He's made a nice little statement in the chat. You'll get to know 2 great professors for the price of 1. Logic, and just like this webinar, you know, interactive, getting through different issues and really explaining in a very good way for especially young people. If your English isn't strong, we are English medium. I think you take that effort. And he's put his phone number into the chat if you specifically want to talk to him. I can't allow him to speak if he wants to. No, he got an older version. If you want to get on, I can promote you to a panelist, Vikramji, to make a statement if there's anybody else that would like to. We still have over 50 people with us today, so let's get through some more questions. Vikramji, you can send me a message directly.
Thank Mr. Vikram Sachin for his very
believe in spreading
nice
awareness of what already exists in Hindu scriptures, no matter how old they are. Expensive permits are preventing us from sharing this. Well, that's what we're about. That's why we're at universities, to overcome those whatever barriers they are, cost, logistics, to make the information and knowledge accessible. Yeah, so thank you for that. What is this? To be allowed because modern means experiment, not theory. Take the courses. We get into all of that. There's so many good conversations and things to happen there. So, maybe you know how you're teaching the courses and there's a little order, right? And how it's split up. Maybe you could just explain the rotation that you're taking and what will be offered next quarter. The same course won't be offered next quarter, but you know, I'll let you speak to that, please.
Now here, as asked by Sri Ankur Patel, we'll show you how the course is being structured. She showed it to you about 10 minutes back. We'll show it to you again so that there's clarity to all the participants as to how this course has been structured. Yeah, look at this. These are 10 sessions that offered every Saturday. We have already shown you the timings. So this is how the 10 sessions are going to be structured.
So this is for this, actually, even to go a little back.
Look at,
yeah.
So overall, the Hindu contributions, like we said, the 2 sides to it, the realm of matter, the realm of mind. And in the realm of mind, we will be looking at those contributions which were towards sciences and arts in the coming quarter, spring quarter. And in a subsequent quarter, we will be looking at the contributions towards living and lifestyle. So in this, each of these is going to be 10 sessions on a weekend. So your day of your choice, either Saturday or Sunday. And there will be 10 weekends, 10 classes. And in those 10, we will be looking at these different aspects of knowledge and these different aspects of things to do with the mind, the idea, the mindset fundamentally as well. So that is what, and interestingly, even when we did this particular course in the realm of matter, while the Big 5 did focus a lot on what were our contributions, the Game Changer did focus a lot on the mindset. And much of that would perhaps also answer a previous question about are those technologies relevant in the modern world and for the modern advancement. So it's not just a black and white answer. You have to understand the mindset with which, so if you look at all these sciences and technologies, it definitely goes to show that our ancestors were well aware of sciences. They were in the know of sciences as well. And they did have a very scientific bent of mind. So what was the guiding thumb rule that they used to convert science into technology and technology into lifestyle? So that is what is more important in the answer to, is it relevant or not relevant? Is it an advancement? Is it a progress or not a progress? What are we losing? What are we gaining? And which is more important, the loss of which or the gain of which is more important? So all of these are very subjective factors, and these can only be decided once you have a mindset and the thumb rule in front of you. And that is what we'll get to see in deep when we sit and discuss each of the points and each of the contributions. Some of them have done well for us. They did well for us. And some of the introductions have done bad for us. Some of them have done well for others when they have been taken over. So what are the strengths? What are weaknesses? And What should you be playing up to? Your strengths, others' weaknesses? So these are various questions that each civilization has to actually answer. It is never a one size fits all. That is the biggest mindset problem that we have between today and the yesteryears. Yesteryears, not just of the Indian civilization, but most ancient civilization. We never lived by the rule of one size fits all. And that is what gave us the diversity as well, which we have lost,
That was
unfortunately.
a strength. That diversity was a strength. Now we are going on for centralization and one size fits all idea. And before this, I would like to again, once again, thanks to Vikram Sach, because he's made a very big offer and he's put the pressure on us. Literally, thank you so much for having the confidence in us, Shri Vikram Sachinji. Yes, I think Shri Vikram wants to speak. By saying that he will refund anybody if they're not happy with the course, he's put pressure, he's put enormous pressure on us. So kind of you to
Namaste, Vikramji.
To make that offer. Really appreciate your confidence in us. Thank you.
Dhanyavad, everybody, first of all. And I would like to say they're the most knowledgeable about Hindu civilization, and they have ability that they can actually explain this thing to a child and to a 100-year-old person. So anybody in between wants to take this course, if you take this course, you will not regret, your life will change. And I have another student in this webinar right now, Vanshika Jain. It has changed her life. So you can speak for her, and she is a young person. So, and again, this is the best course I've ever taken. And if you take this course, your children will not be brainwashed by anybody. Nobody can brainwash them. They will be so proud of their history and their parents, then nobody can brainwash them. And we will be able to remove a lot of hassles or problems we are facing in the West, like Hindu dismantling Hindutva or caste system and all that stuff, what's propaganda we're facing. So it's a really good course. And again, that offer stands. If for any reason, if any of you feel like that you did not gain anything from this course, or you it wasn't worth your time, please let me know and I will refund the money. This is my personal offer. I'm that confident about this course. So please take the course. And if you don't like it, it's money back guarantee. So you have nothing to lose. So that's my offer. And Vanshika can speak how it changed her life. I mean, so that's what I had to say. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Vikram Sachinji. You put a big Atlas on our head, like how Atlas carried the globe on we put it like that on our head. No. So we will endeavor to keep up to your.
You have changed lives, and not once, to many lives. All the kids who are taking courses I was sponsoring, I'm hearing that from them. So it's not coming from me, it's coming from them, all of us.
Okay.
So my everybody, please take this course.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We have a couple more questions in the Q&A box. We have a couple hands raised. We're about Pacific Coast time, about 10:20. We can, let's see, Vanshikaji's having issues. Cartography. This is an interesting question from Majitji. Right, cartography of depicted, there have been cartography or maps depicting the world in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Any thoughts on that aspect and our contributions to cartography? And then we can get Vanshikaji in right after you take that. And there's one question that I do have, like a closing thing, that I think Manikantaji is kind of a good question. And Dr. Srinivas has also got his hand up. So let's try and take everyone's comments and questions.
Yeah, can I start?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Vanshika, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I would just like to say that I am so glad that I took these sessions, and it not only changed my life because it also had this thing that I could see different perspectives. As a teenager, I never knew how Indian civilization was growing, and I really felt it is orthodox. Maybe this is not true, or this was because I did not know the reality. And since I was studying history, being a student, I always felt that there is something wrong with it, because I had no point. Like, I thought, what is the importance of learning something that that isn't relevant to me? So after taking these sessions, it actually helped me clear a lot of misconceptions, and I could talk about it with my friends, with my colleagues in office, and it helped me gain one of my internships also at office at a CA firm. And I'm glad this happened because of this course, because I had the knowledge and it helped me impress my bosses. So that is one. And now I'm glad that
Can I
I'm
intervene here?
confident.
No, one second, can I intervene here? You know what? Vanshika went for a CFO interview where instead of giving an interview on the subject of finance, she started interviewing her interviewers about their knowledge of India. And they decided that she's so intelligent on Indian civilization that they gave her a job without interviewing her on finance. There was a power that she got. So she got her interview, passed the interview, and and she also got an offer from them along with the job that weekly once they should speak about the Indian civilization to her own whole office. So a young startup person, look at the confidence she's got. Because when Shri Vikram Sachandji said, it's changed lives of people. This young girl. So now she is teaching the whole office of elders on Indian civilization as what she learned in our course. So she, from being a student, from being an intern in her office, she's become a teacher in her office. She could be an intern in the field of finance, but she's a teacher on Indian civilization. And look at the outlook that she's got. Look at the smile on her face. A young girl, wonderful. Wish you all the best, Vanshika, for a happy,
Thank you so much,
wonderful life ahead for you. No, all with knowledge, happiness, and smile, always.
Thank you, sir.
Best wishes.
Best wishes to you.
Anything else you'd like to say, Vanshika ji? Okay. Some video. All right. So thank you for that. That was, again, people like Vikramji said, he gave the money back guarantee, but people are so excited and confident and empowered by this course and so many other courses at HUA, but this one in particular. So if you haven't filled out the poll, please just let us know if you're interested, if you have questions. We'll get into that. And maybe the last few questions we can get into in terms of the cartography question. You want to touch on that at all?
Ajit Padmanabhan, there's a question from Ajit Padmanabhan, if I can respond to that. See, the topography of the land of Bharata is very well explained in Ramayana, in Mahabharata, very well. So you can actually trace the whole area, which is what we've done in our book, The Footprints of Krishna. In our book, Historically Krishna, Volume 2, we deal about the topography of land very well. From the Mahabharata and as well from the Harivamsa. The point. If you look at the book of Kalidasa, the poetry of Kalidasa, especially the book Megha Sandesha, it's a drama. It's a wonderful poetry. But what is it, Megha Sandesha? He's looking at the whole of the land of Bharata from the perspective of the clouds. So he explains the whole landscape, the topography. So the cartography is coming in there. You can imagine this. He had done this 1,500 years back. You talk about bird's eye view. You're talking about drone view. You're talking about view from an aeroplane. He's talking about the view from the clouds. He's got a message of the clouds. Megha Sandesha.
And the other aspect is when you talk about cartography, this is yet another extended dimension. We have been able to talk about the map in the sky, not just on land, and also relate it to land. Fundamentally, when we spoke about trade, how can there be trade without navigation? And how can there be navigation without the signs of stars? You know, very, very interesting. If you pose a question to somebody as to what is the best time of the day to sail in high seas.
High seas is a night. You ask a seasoned navigator. Do you know what he'll say? It's easier to sail in the night because he's got a whole sky chart in front of him. So he knows whether east or west or north or south.
Map in the sky in front of him to navigate in. So mapping, understanding the motion of the stars in the sky, how to navigate by them, and how to locate lands with them. Because there are very, very nice examples of how even young children could, especially in the Easter Islands, and we can show beautiful connect between the Indian knowledge and that of people of this Easter Island, Tahiti Islands in the Pacific, and how they would point out their particular island, home island based on the star in the sky.
Indian name for the star in Tahiti. That's the beauty of it. And this we did in our just concluded course, Hindu contribution to the world in the realm of matter, on the subject of navigation.
So cartography, it was a seamless cartography. It was land to sky kind of a cartographies as well.
So we taken this cartography to a very different level, because cartography is from the clouds, not only from on the foot. Cartography was from the stars. That's what we actually had, which is what we showed in the course.
And interestingly, even Mount Everest, fundamentally the determination of the height of Mount Everest was all assisted by Indians who helped the engineers, the surveyors, who were actually trying to map those mountains and find their altitudes and so on.
It was a person, it was actually done.
Narayan.
Yes, a person named Narayan. He did it actually. But his immediate English boss was one Andrew Waugh of Australia. I'm sure you heard of the different wars of Australia, right? The Waugh brothers. So it was Andrew Waugh, and he wanted to please his boss, whose name was George Everest. So he named this mountain after his boss, so he'll get a good increment. That's how you get the name. That's how you get the name Mount Everest. But actually, the original name of the Mount Everest in Sanskrit is called Sagarmate. So all that we'll deal with in the sessions as we go along.
What a question, right? From cartography, all these different layers, this is what you would get in the course, this exploration of so many different aspects that I didn't even know about. I just asked a question and then you gave so much depth so quickly. It's beautiful. Now, I think we are closing on the end. The course, what is Sujata? Last question, is there less appreciation of India's and Hindu contributions in all the areas covered in this course because of English? English is a blessing for sure, but maybe exposure to some terms and concepts in regional languages and Hindi will help the youth of India appreciate the brains and intelligence in India. And I think Dr. Hari, you do this all the time. You trace the etymology, how the language evolved and the tracking where it came from and how it's changed. And so you embed this in your lessons, subject by subject, area by area. So Sujata-ji, thank you for that question. And the last one that I kind of want to get at, and maybe this is a closing statement also, Manikantan-ji is asking, can we consider decline of these knowledge systems as a decline that happened naturally from Satya Yuga to Kali Yuga, or are Indians responsible for its decline due to misunderstanding dharma? And there's the Bhagavad Gita shloka where Krishna says, I'm here again because we lost it, we forgot it, what happened? So on that front, let's I'll hand it to you to give some closing thoughts.
What do we call time? Kala, we call it Kala Chakra. What do we call Dharma? Dharma Chakra. So all this is cyclical. So what is on the top someday has to go down and again come down. So unfortunately, what we suffered over the last few centuries and close to millennia was a downswing. Due to various reasons, it may be one, obviously invasion and various other factors like that we suffered. But the good point is now we are seeing the upswing again happening. Though believe we could have seen the upswing happen 50, 70 years ago, but unfortunately we had an alien system governing the whole our mind process itself. That's why we took time to recover, to come back. Now, with efforts like Hindu University America, where the initiative is to reclaim our thought process, our mind, our matter, our contributions, and our Hindu ideas itself, which are for sustainable living, happy living. So we are coming back. So the Kala Chakra, the Dharma Chakra is again turning back upwards. So this is the time, and contributions like institutions, noble institutions like what Hindu University America is doing, is with this, we can all understand, relish this knowledge. once we know the knowledge, once we release the knowledge, we can utilize it practically in our own ways and make the whole civilization recognize and come back and have an upswing once again. Upswing doesn't happen without the people. The people create the upswing, and we are the people. We, the people of the civilization, should create the upswing with knowledge.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Dhanyawad. Please do enroll in this course. You won't be disappointed. Dr. Hemahari, Dr. DK Hari, always a pleasure. You put the smile on my face. The enthusiasm is contagious. The knowledge is contagious. And I'm glad to be working with you, as is Hindu University of America. Thank you, everyone, for participating. See you in a course soon.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste to all. Welcome. Look forward to meeting you all in the course.
Namaste. Dhanyavada.
Dhanyawada.